75,000 in the stadium in Georgia. The famous stadium of Dynamo Tbilisi, and England played in the stadium exactly 10 years ago against the old Soviet Union. A different age, a different set of circumstances, but the objective is exactly the same. England, after a win, to consolidate the performance they turned in against Moldova. Many people wondering about the interpretation of the result. If you beat anybody 3-0 away from home, you're doing well nowadays. And certainly Georgia in the attack immediately. And they'll be placing a great deal of faith in Kinkladze up front for them. That effort there was by Kobiashvili. Well, the English coach has resorted to the three centre halves, and that's just over. Stiffening up his defence, which I think was clearly showing a little fragility towards the end of the game against Poland. So Sol Campbell in for his first game from the start for England. And nowhere to be seen when that effort came across alongside Tony Adams and Southgate. Beautiful little touch there by Sheringham, and there it goes, it's in. England open the scoring. And credit to Sheringham for that little slide of foot. Immaculate dummy, drawing the defender away from himself, and I think he might have been aided by a deflection at the end. Yes, it seemed to come off Shkadadze. But good control with the outside of his left foot, and then flicked away with the right. I think that's a mark, 9 out of 10 from his coach. Played square by Kinkladze. The build-up just a little bit predictable now. Although number 9, Kensbaya, has looked very prominent, almost a kind of traditional British centre forward. Bustling, head down, vigorous. Ferdinand going away. That's good control by Ferdinand. And a wonderful finish. 2-0. And England must now be feeling much more comfortable than that man there, the coach. And that's beautiful control by Les Ferdinand. Now, it's a very bad pitch this, and anything could have happened. The ball bobbling away from him, but he seemed to hit that with the greatest control. And I wonder if they think there's no way back for them now against an English team which has played in a very disciplined way. The controversial selection of Gascoigne might have muted him to a certain extent, but he's fitting well into the game plan. And now that player gets Bayer, and eventually Kobiashvili with the final effort. David Beckham not getting back quickly enough there. Beckham has progressed in one fell swoop from the under-21s right into the full international side, and maturing very quickly. By Godrichani. Good interception though. And Kinkladze, the first real effort was seen in this half, and simply forced out. He's been crowded out of most of the efforts, and Batty back there having an outstanding game. Allowing for the fact that that might have been an illegal tackle. He's been immaculate throughout. A solid performance by England, keeping their 100% record.
Well, they still pine for the glory days of the past when under Roy Hodgson, the Swiss, and qualification and participation in major tournaments seemed assured, and players such as Schwarzer, Chapuisat and Turki Lumaz made following the national side a real pleasure. That all ended just over a year ago, of course, when Roy Hodgson left for Inter, and thus began the doomed regime of Arthur George. Now, new coach Rolf Fringel, who left Stuttgart on the eve of the Bundesliga season, hasn't had a great start. Defeat by Azerbaijan, followed up by a narrow 3-2 win, and they're under pressure immediately here. That's an offside flag, as I was saying. It was a narrow 3-2 win over Finland. The crowd voicing displeasure. And Turkey Yilmaz obviously didn't hear the whistle. Seven Vogel was just standing around watching the ball there. Here's Leonardson drifting over the far post and should have done better with that. The Swiss guilty of ball watching as play was picked up in the middle of their own half. Leonardson's ball clearly onside. Now, surely this is the opening goal. No, the keeper did extremely well to stand up. Chapuisat may well wish to hide his eyes. Forward they come once more. And there's an offside there. Lombardo's ball. Well, uncharacteristically, the Norwegians are being caught defensively twice in a matter of moments. Chapuisat. And Grodas, currently at Chelsea, stood up very well. Seven is Vogel, flicking in the middle. Here's Yilmaz, and another great save from Grodas. That's another good-looking cross. But Grodas has been exceptional in these opening stages of this game here. But Norway, defensively at least, continue to look anything but sound and secure. And once again, this really should have been a goal. Well, the Swiss erring on the, the Norwegians rather erring on the side of the cautious. They've got Solskjaer on the bench, and there's another chance here. And this time, it's a goal, and it's Leonardson. It was Yakin originally. Who made the mistake, but Leonardson was very, very quick to read the situation. Flo turning exceptionally well. For a big man, he's attracting a lot of interest from the Premier League at the moment, Flo, whose brother, of course, plays in England. That was a great turn by Flo. Tremendous save from Pascolo. But Leonardson charging through the middle. Into injury time at the end of the first half, and the Swiss really have offered very little on what they have, and almost onto the foot of Vogel. They've been guilty of some howling misses. But Turkey Yilmaz and Stefan Chapuisat, who's yet to really recover from the cartilage problems he had earlier on in the year, hasn't looked the same player. Causing all sorts of problems once again, barging their way through, and really you wonder whether or not, with the possible inclusion of Solskjaer, consistent start that time, once again finding Leonardson barging his way through the middle. Seven was Mikeland, and 8 is the man of the match so far, without a shadow of a doubt. That's Leonardson now free on the far post. Surely should have done better, and Flo fluffs it. Strandley. Well, he really didn't take the right option here. He had so much time and space. Flo's miss was pretty awful in itself, but Strandley had so much time. Here he is again. That's Flo's turn. Leonardson just inches wide of Pascal's post. Well, whilst he continues to thrive, we see very little of the creative talents of players like Vogel and Schwarzer. The Swiss really do need an injection of creativity from somewhere. And certainly this has been a performance as Schwarzer goes down injured, a performance by the Norwegians, which has been unexpected to say the least. Anything like what we've come to be used to. There is Solskjaer. Moments into the game and makes his first real impact. Well, that was a poor ball. Oh, but he still might get it back. And again, a fabulous save from Grodas in the goal. What do they have to do to put the ball in the back of the net? Ball into the penalty area, the keeper comes, oh, he's dropped it in front of the goal, and it was Henningberg, I think, who cleared an almost certain goal. Look at this. It was indeed the boot of Henningberg as Turkey Yilmaz came storming through, and Subiat couldn't get in there either. Well, he's done so much for the Norwegian cause this evening, but it would be unfair to really criticise. And what a shock here in Switzerland tonight. 1-0, Norway beat the Swiss. Well, Russia have a real problem with footballing inconsistency. A poor European Championships, and Ignatieff has been called in as the new team manager. And surely it should be here a question of how many goals the Russians are to notch up, and here should be the first. Well, Luxembourg, footballing success doesn't come easy for them, but in terms of the World Cup qualifiers, success is measured normally on a scale of goals scored, and they played one game and they've scored a goal, which is something that normally doesn't happen. The Russian Footballing Federation was very displeased with the performance in Euro 96. They blamed the performance on what they called legionnaires, who were more interested in bargaining for money than they were for playing for national pride. Now here's a chance again they're queuing up, and that's the first goal. Tikhonov. Well, it's taken its time in coming, and Luxembourg have played with a lot of red shirts behind the ball and have made it awfully difficult in these opening stages for the Russians to get clear attempts on goal, but 1 out of 2, not a bad return so far. Speaking of again, that was a loose ball, really. And just going on from the European Championships, the Russian Federation had actually banned 3 players from appearing in the national colours. Dmitry Korin is one of them, Shalimov is the other, and Kiryakov is the third. Now, forward they come once more. It's Kolivanov. Well, the referee's been blowing his whistle for that 10 seconds there, so treatment can be given. Well, Beschasnik stuck a leg out. Not too dissimilar to, well, it was not Beschasnik, it was Niforov, and he's gone. It's a sending off. Nikiforov has been sent off for Russia. I was just about to say, it was almost similar to the incident in Holland a couple of weeks ago, which involved Paul Gascoigne and Winston Bohada. I thought he was going to get away with that, but here come the Russians once more. They're down to 10 men, and the inconsistency shows once more. Surely a lob over the top would be best here. They don't need to. Defensively, a complete disaster for Luxembourg. There were enough players back there. There was only one white shirt in the penalty area. Andrei Kanchelskis seemed to have run into a bit of difficulty. The goalkeeper seemed more concerned with looking at the referee because he thought he'd come out the penalty area and actually handle the ball. Still, there was plenty of red shirts there, but Kanchelskis finally putting the ball in the back of the net. Well, the first claims were for a handball. Oh, a bit of musical accompaniment to take his mind off. He obviously comes from Luxembourg. But still, you'd have to say they've done well here tonight. Not created many scoring chances, but they've not folded as they have done in the past. Deville with the giving away the free kick. That was just straight into the wall. And still they're just packing the penalty area. Now inside comes Karpin. Good save. And this time it was Beschatnik who gets the ball in the net for the number 3 for Russia. Good run from Karpin. And the keeper's been aided very well this evening by some enthusiastic defending. And where in the past you've just seen these teams fold, obviously they've learned to be a bit less naive defensively. For is Berson. Now through the middle, can they get a goal here? Well, they appeal for a penalty. Still, forward come the Luxembourg team. Surely a wonderful save from Chechezev. Well, Langers, who's got the only goal for Luxembourg, from the Kostrom field, it just ran away from him. Kanchelskis. Karpin goes for the return to Kanchelskis. Loads of time and space here. And there's number 4. Well, they're now beginning to look a bit disconsolate. Plenty of time to pick out his man. And number 4.
The health warning handed out to Wales in the previous international against Holland was quite simply, if the Dutch are a goal down, they're never more dangerous. They came back to win by 3 goals to 1. 4 changes in the Dutch side, though. Welch, Veerklaar, Bronkhorst and Cruyff are all out from the starting lineup. Wales have made 4 changes as well. Horn, Hughes, Robertson and Browning not in. And of course the absence of Mark Hughes and the likes of Ryan Gibbs detracts enormously from a country which of course has limited resources. So Bobby Gould, as opposed to hiding, Gus Heidig there, I think, must be feeling rather more anxious. Wim Jonk, the man with a great deal of experience, he'll try to establish authority in midfield right from the start of this match. Alan Winter pushing that through. The Dutch started off rather casually in the game in Cardiff and then burst into action like that after going a goal down. They totally controlled the match. That's Michael Reiziger, now playing his football in Milan and playing for the 11th time for Holland. Neville Southall, already at the age of 38, has been very busy indeed. And the agility certainly belying the years that this man has put in as a professional footballer, and he's still going at it. Solid and secure and good judgment. Wide there by Jonk. They're knocking the ball about freely now. And there's the shot eventually by Clarence Seedorf. And Neville Southall coming out very quickly. And the Everton goalkeeper has had 31 shutouts in international football, and that's an exceedingly good record. But the Dutch are looking ominously aggressive at the moment as Bergkamp lets fly and really ought to have scored. Dennis Bergkamp, 25 goals in all for Holland. A nice little 1-2 there played by Wim Jonk, the man he went to Italy with. It came off for neither player, but they did score goals there, and Bergkamp very near that one. De Boer. Seedorf taking up an aggressive role. Lovely little touch there, and Jonk. Well, Wim Jonk, 52 goals he scored in his entire career, and he brings a broad smile out of Neville Southall there. And you get the impression, despite the fact that the Welsh have been taking this, the Dutch have been taking this defence apart, and Southall is in fact enjoying himself. Great move there, Jonk giving marvellous support from midfield. Reiziger again, look at the speed of Seedorf coming in. Clarence Seedorf now with Real. Bergkamp seemed to take a hard one, and I think that'll be a free kick. Andy Melville going in. Sunderland player with the boot just a little bit high. Beside him, Jason Bowen. Goalkeeper so far has been superb. Oh, the Dutch football, one touch and lethal. Koku. Bergkamp. And Jonk coming through. Oh, that's a glorious goal. Well, certainly one of the best international goals I've seen since the start of the World Cup qualifying groups. The ball coming deep from midfield. Not an opponent touched the ball as they put together about 8 passes, and eventually the lethal sighting run there. And a goal reminiscent of how he scored for Inter Milan, a glorious goal like this when they won the UEFA Cup final. Almost exactly the same. Well, Bobby Gould fitting it. I think he knows from experience. He's been a man who's had success in football at FA Cup, of course, and now realizing he's facing a side playing superb football, technically sound and full of individual flair. But a buzz forward there. Hodgson puts it in, and there's Saunders. Well, Dean Saunders puts that away for his 20th goal for Wales, and I just wonder if the positions had been reversed, if Neville Southall would have saved that. Somehow, I think he would. The ball from Hodgson. Now watch the tall figure of Eddie van der Sar getting down. That was not good goalkeeping. Let's see it from this angle. His weight, tragically for him, was on the wrong foot. And he is a tall goalkeeper, 6'3", so I'm afraid he just couldn't get back. Well, they've been trying as well as they can, Wales. Excellent tackle there eventually by Kit Simons, right in the middle of the penalty area, but the tide has been flowing mercilessly against them. I think he's having one of his best games tonight when Jonk, the man who's about to take the corner kick, and in it goes, yes! Frank de Boer this time joins his brother Ron de Boer right on half-time. And curiously enough, that's only his second ever goal for Holland. And at the end of the day, I think it could have been much worse, but for the heroics of Neville Southall. He really has had no chance with any of the 4 goals. While the people are not, Eindhoven are not exactly affectionate towards Ajax players, but rising there to that goal at Bobby Gould, well, I couldn't possibly make any comment. Free kick to Wales. Van der Sar. Eddie Jones telling him to get forward a bit. And no great effort there for Van der Sar. Mark Penridge scored 3 times for Wales. And the movement of the Dutch from back to front has been wonderful to watch. Straight against the goalkeeper, and I think very significantly the movement forward by Ron de Boer there is catching the Welsh side, because he's been playing slightly further back in midfield, and now they're pushing him forward. Feeling obviously very confident at the scoreline at the moment, 4-1. Look at the ball being knocked about here. Lovely stuff again. Jonk coming in. And the Welsh simply cannot get the ball. That's the final shot and goal. Anna Winter comes into that, and I'm quite sure that about 15 passes were put together there. Back out through with it, slightly slack. Goes in nicely, touched away. Philip Cocu. An emerging figure and a very influential one in Dutch club and international football, Philip Cocu. Second goal for the Dutch. Although he has been very prolific in the league, in his time he scored over 50 goals, and now really one of the stars of a resurgent PSV side. Well, at 5-1 you might think the Dutch will be charitable about it, but they need as many goals as they can. They're still flooding forward. Nicely turned round, and that must be it, yes. That ball circulated in midfield and then ended up with Bergkamp. And reminiscent almost of the way the pass to finish off the goal in the first half by Wim Jonk. And so Bergkamp flipping it in there for his second. And I do feel sorry for Southall. If it hadn't been for him, this score would inevitably have been in double figures. Well, they don't want to give the ball away like that. Overmars puts it forward. Could this be it again? No. Pierre Van Hooydonk, the substitute coming forward, might have profited from a little chip. Well, Gus Hooydonk still looking very solemn on the bench. Must be a relieved man to see this performance and bring on the likes of Overmars, and again Southall defies him. I really have run out of the number of saves that this man has made. He certainly hasn't given up. He's had an awful defense in front of him, and he stood his ground. These 1-2s have turned out to be lethal against the Welsh. Poku makes it look easy. And is quite happy to get the corner kick. And even though they went a goal down in that first game up in Cardiff, the Dutch played some splendid possession football. And it's in the last one, Bergkamp, and I think there was a deflection, but he'll claim it. And it must be one of the greatest paradoxes in recent times in international football, that one of the men of the match has been the goalkeeper who's conceded 7 goals. Oh, absolutely no chance of that. Southall, I would certainly say, when he gets back to the Valleys, we have to be singing their praise. We all know about him, of course, from club and international football. Certainly not his fault tonight. Wales's heaviest defeat was against Scotland way back in the 19th century when they lost 9-0. Tonight, they'll want to forget that too.
Well, Turkey's performances in Euro 96 left many believing that success, measured in terms of qualification for major tournaments on a regular basis, was just around the corner. They were unfortunate then to be drawn in a group alongside Holland and Belgium. And having already been beaten by Belgium, the best they can realistically hope for is a playoff as runner-up. As San Marino as opponents means the home crowd should at least be reacquainted with goal celebrations. This Turkey side showing 9 changes from that was thumped 4-0 by France just over a month ago. It's coming up for the first goal, and it's Oktay. "24 minutes gone. Lovely flick by Oktay. Well, they showed in Euro 96 as well that they like to play attacking football, the Turks, and there's a chance for number 2. Oh, it was Oktay again. The referee's whistle, I think, has just blown. But if not, then Gabardoni made a very good save. And remember as well that these two teams actually fought out a 0-0 draw, believe it or not, in the last World Cup qualifiers. Shot by Eren, and again the ball's not being cleared. The queuing up for the second, and Oktay gets his second of the evening. 38 minutes gone, 2-0. And if anything, they love a celebration in Turkey. Never mind the opposition. So far, the goal glut hasn't appeared. Just 2 goals have been scored. Now, here's Mande Ali, and there's the 3rd, and the hat-trick for Oktay. A simple execution from a cross that had taken a deflection. And just rise to the perfect level for him to power the header home now. Mande Ali. Oktay will be pleased because his striking partner as yet, who is Davor Suker, or sorry, Hakan Suker, hasn't scored. And rather spectacularly maintained the momentum to carry himself into the photographer's pit. And the reason, of course, that Hakan Suker is known normally as Hakan is so you did end up making the mistake that was just made and calling him Davor. Now, speaking of which, he rams the keeper and is on to the score sheet in the 55th minute. His 14th goal for the national side. He was prolific in the European Championship qualifiers, scored 7 goals in 8 games en route to Euro 96. Scores most of them with his head though, normally. Here's, well, there's another. That's number 5 on the hour. And this time it's Oktay. Now they've really got the bit between their teeth and are searching for more, and Suker gets number 6. Well, knowing how they tend to celebrate football victories in this particular country, there will be one long party tonight. It took them a while to get in the mood, Turkey, to go in search of the hatful of goals that everybody else has scored. And there's another! 80 minutes. It's Ekdal. I don't know whether you call that a rather novel piece of sponsorship there, putting a chocolate logo on the back of the national flag. 7-0 then the final score.
We look at Group 9 now. Northern Ireland against Germany. The Northern Irish have an incredible record in the World Cup against the very strongly fancied Germans. They've never lost a World Cup qualifying game, and indeed went to Hamburg once in 1982 and won by 1-0, a goal by Norman Whiteside. But under pressure right away in this game in Nuremberg, Thomas Hessler coming near it with that immaculate swerving shot of his. Northern Ireland team, of course, had disappointed in the group. They'd been beaten by the Ukraine 1-0, then played against Armenia, strongly fancied to beat them, and the goalkeeper now, Wright, being peppered by shot after shot. And those disappointments of only getting 1 point at home made them even less favourites and less likely to get anything out of this game. But somehow or other, the jinx obtains in football in the strangest ways, and the German defence playing it very slackly there, the ball landing at the foot of Taggart. And against the run of play and all expectations, Northern Ireland were 1 up 6 minutes before half-time. Andres Kopke in goal, playing his football now in the south of France for Marseille. Ending up with no chance against this snapshot. Good anticipation by Taggart. Well, hell hath no fury like a German team scorned. One behind, the indignity of it all. The run there and a blistering and glorious effort by Andy Mola. The Northern Ireland lead had lasted only 2 minutes. And that tiptoeing action of his, which utterly deceives defences and certainly belies the finish in such a scorching manner. So the Germans going in at half-time on level terms, and the attack still continued as that ball was played across by Bobic. He got the slightest touch to it, and I think he realized himself he ought to have scored. One-way traffic as that Northern Ireland defence again almost beaten at a double bounce this time. Really quite remarkable that Klinsmann couldn't finish it off. Giving some justification to that old cliche remark about the luck of the Irish. Well, the Germans spraying the ball about, but to little effect against a nine-man defensive formation by the Irish, and right in goal in great form. On this programme tonight, of course, we've seen some superb goalkeeping. And the final whistle went. Valiant effort by the Irish to get a 1-1 draw.
Well, in 77 years of international football, Portugal have not won a major competition. The few highlights included the '66 World Cup, with Eusebio, of course, and a third in the European Championships of '84. The bulk of today's senior side is made up of graduates of the youth teams that won the World Cups of '89 and '91. They've been described as a perfectly harmonized orchestra with several outstanding soloists, and there lies their problem. So far, the soloists have been performing, but without the harmonious accompaniment. They need to win, and win well here tonight after a poor start to the campaign. In comparison, the Ukraine have 2 wins from 2 starts, and Artur George has elected to go public and criticize his players through the press in the hope that it stings them into some type of action. He's called them spoilt children. That's Rui Costa to Fola. Rui Costa's ball in, and Pinto almost getting his foot on the ball to divert it past the keeper Suslov. 2 is Pinto, the captain. Through the middle, that's Rui Costa. Oh, wonderful shot from Figo, but what a ball from Rui Costa. Loaded with backspin as he flicked the ball right into the path and on the boot of Figo. Costa really playing or relishing the director's role in the middle of the field tonight, and once again they're trying to weave their way through the defence, and they've done it almost again. And certainly the commitment levels from the Portuguese tonight are of the highest possible order. They're so dangerous with a ball to feet, running at the defence. For all the fluidity of movement, the Portuguese are yet to find a way through. They might find one now. The Ukrainians are backtracking, and Pinto was almost in once again. But they defended solidly so far of the Ukraine. been content just to sit back and soak up the pressure, and there's been much of it. Dimas's ball into the centre. Well, Arthur George hangs his head there, and well, he may do. João Vieira Pinto, the number 8, obviously looking to lay the ball into the path of his fellow striker Sapinto, but it didn't come off. For is Oceanu. Still Oceanu. 34, 35 years of age this year, and still a major part of this side. That's a teasing ball, and it should have been number 1. Sapinto. It needed only the slightest of touches. Sapinto's touch was just too slight. Looked to be a touch of offside. Well, they're giving the ball away a bit in midfield now, and it tends to mean the running out of ideas. 17, Porcidio into the penalty area. Brave diving header there by Oceanu once again. Gets the ball back again. They're pushing up now, the Ukrainians. Not allowing Portugal the time and space that they had in the first half. Dimas is number 3, hassled off the ball though by Zubov. And that's going to be a free kick. A draw here for Portugal is not really good enough. 1-1, drawn 1 and lost 1 of their 3 games so far. They've got Germany, Armenia and the Ukraine in this group. Qualification is by far and away certain. In it comes. Oh, here's Couto! 1-0. We'd said earlier that the man that we saw so much from in Euro 96 from set pieces had hardly been visible during this game. It was a defensive error, though, from the Ukraine that allowed Fernando Couto to get hold of a ball. It was Maximov. Well, he went for a diving header and allowed the ball to run into the path of Fernando Couto. Oceanu. Through the middle again to Porfirio. Infield to Pinto. Should have been number 2. Once again, the chances beginning to arrive for the Portuguese. He's so deadly with the ball at his feet and back to goal. Now forward come the Ukraine. Well, they've so rarely been over the halfway line during this game. But with the score at 1-0. And looking at defeat in the face now, they've got a chance here. Here's Maximov. Still Maximov. And Baya's got to be aware. Vitor Baya, the world's most expensive goalkeeper, and almost an embarrassing moment for Fernando Couto. 7 is Figo. Oh, and the keeper, Suslov, he's grateful to see that flying over the top. Well, he'd obviously been watching David Beckham. And a few of those in the Premier League this season. Yugoslavia eased themselves back into world football with 3 straight morale-boosting wins to leave them top of Group 6. And whoever did the scheduling obviously had a hard, giving them the Faroe Islands twice and Malta, hence the 17 goals for and the 2 against. The campaign for real, though, begins tonight against the Euro 96 finalists, the Czech Republic, who, incidentally, their only win so far has also come against Malta. And it's arguably one of the toughest groups to qualify from. It includes Slovakia and Spain, all of whom have amassed points against the Faroe Islands and Malta, so confidence has yet to be dented for any side. So there should be some very interesting games ahead in the next couple of weeks. Yugoslavia certainly not at full strength this evening. No Dejan Savicevic, AC Milan player, is injured, and a surprise not to see the inclusion of Pantish from Atletico Madrid. He is fit, but can't get a regular place in the side. The Czech Republic, well, they are at full strength. Well, you may just have got a brief glimpse of the Yugoslavian number 11 standing over the ball now as they kick off. Savo Milosevic, the Aston Villa striker, currently hanging around in Belgrade, waiting for his transfer to Perugia to go through. But he's been prolific for Yugoslavia. 7 was Nemec. And Kocic, one of the 3 Yugoslavs playing in Italy. And Karol Poborski on the substitutes bench tonight. Not, we are assured, that it has anything to do with the form he's showing for his club. Now, Smica making a move forward and is brought to a standstill by Jugovic. Ten for the Czech Republic needs no introduction. Patrick Berger, the man who may eventually, due to his continued inclusion in the Liverpool lineup, force the sale of Stan Collymore. Now the shot comes in from Pavel Nedved, but that's no trouble for Kocic. Clear-cut chances have been few and far between. A cross drilled in, and surely that should have been a goal for Jokanovic. Well, if this game ends in a draw and Yugoslavia don't qualify, will that be replayed time and time again on Yugoslav television? A clear opportunity. Nemec drops to Kuka, the possession given away. Stojkovic, Mijatovic gets the ball again. It's Mijatovic against the keeper, and Mijatovic has scored. And the crowd in the stadium have gone absolutely berserk. He was clearly onside. And Kadlec wasn't quick enough. And Cernicek was beaten. It was not an easy goal to score that. Seven was Jugovic once more. Kadlec has been beaten once again, and number 2, Cernicek down well at the feet there of Mijatovic once again. Forward Jokanovic. Vidakovic loses possession, away come the Czech Republic. for is Pavel Nedved. They've been very disappointing in the opening 45 minutes so far, the Czech Republic. A look at this once again. Well, it was the number 11 Milosevic, in actual fact, who went in on Cernicek. Suchaparik. Berger playing a very regressed position indeed, almost back on the halfway line, and he's not much use there. Nemec trying to jig their way through the Yugoslav defence. Nemec is still there in space, wasn't found, and that was well read. But that wasn't, they are onside. Nedved gets the ball in. Pavel Kuka has scored easier goals than that. For that miss, again, we've had two glaring misses so far in this first half. Nedved was quick to read the situation and run onto the through ball, but well, once again, opportunities at international level don't arrive like that every 5 minutes. 1-0, Yugoslavia still lead. This is Nemec. Beats Jankovic again. Here's a chance. Oh, he should have gone for the shot, and again it's Pavel Kuka. And he kicks the turf in frustration, and no wonder. Well, perhaps Smicha should have shot on side there. Lovely flick from Berger, but Smicha was in space of his own. Mijatovic, number 9. Through the middle, there's a real opportunity for Jugovic. Well, we've seen some very un-international-like finishing here this evening. Jugovic has put those away for Juventus before. Now clearly onside. Once again it's Jugovic, still Jugovic going wide, looking for space. Cernicek was out of his goal. Last-ditch challenge halted Jugovic from extending the Yugoslav lead. Nedved. Again, Berger almost back on the halfway line. Forward comes Stojkovic. Now, is this going to be number 2? No. Mijatovic. Well, the way things have gone this evening, perhaps it's no real surprise that he didn't extend the lead there. Once again, clear on goal with only Cernicek to beat. Patrick Berger. Looked to have taken it one step too far. Still Berger, that's a good shot from Berger. It knocked the keeper back. Smicha's cross, nobody there. The most effective thing he's done all night. The keeper, that was far too hot to hold. Jugovic brings the ball away as he's done so often this evening. Great play. This looks like it's going to be number 2. Round the keeper. He's gone too far. But how many touches of the ball does he want? And here's Jugovic, and the keeper Cernicek still saves. Well, it's turning into an absolute catalogue of errors here.
Paris Saint-Germain on the attack, as they very usually are when they play in the Parc des Princes here against Lille, and the opening goal. A pass from Rai to Loco onto Deli Valdez, and the Panamanian scoring his 5th goal of the season. And then from a free kick by Rai to Ngoti, the ball slotted into the back of the net. 2-0 after 33 minutes. Lille, the surprise team of the French league at the moment, giving the goalkeeper there, Bernard Lama, a very big surprise indeed with that goal against the run of play. They hardly had any attacks at goal. That made it 2-1 just before halftime. The goal scored by Colo. And then in the 56th minute, Leonardo to Rai across to Dele Valdez. And the 6th goal for the man who played very recently and well against Canada in the World Cup qualifying game. Monaco streaming forward here with Petit onto Jaman and onto Thierry Henry. And in 52 minutes, the 19-year-old budding star of French football made it 1-0 to Monaco. Then Trezeguet to Ikpiba, and Ismail getting in the way scores through his own goal in the very last minute of the game. The final score for Monaco in second place, 2-0. Metz on the offensive here. The ball played down to Arpington, back inside to Adam, and that was the opening goal. Metz preparing to play Newcastle, of course, and league form is so essential to keep sharpness, and Adam certainly had that. Then a breakaway. Pires goes forward, looks inside for Traore, and that made it 2-0, 7 minutes to go. Metz in very good form indeed. The rather garish colours of Lens here as that ball is played right into the penalty area and appeals for a penalty kick. The fall of Domoro on Smajka, the Czechoslovakian player, the Czech Republic player, and Dehu scored from the spot, 1-0. Balanced out by a foul on Biagio, and Gralak got the equaliser after 24 minutes. The play as fast and as furious as the edits here as that ball goes in again, and the ball played in by Miku Tegrene, 2-1. Then a lovely little chip shot there. And high near it goes, and a hitch kick by the captain of Lens, Delmotte, and Valeme getting the final touch. But Lens at that stage was still trailing. And then a dreadful pass back there, and a little chip by Diawara. And it seemed to put it beyond Lens. Bordeaux going 4-2 up. Then Smajka touching it across, and Brunel put it in to make it 4-3. With 3 minutes to go, it was too late. Bordeaux with a very poor away record have only won 1 away from home. Results of their day 17. Paris Saint-Germain still going very strongly, pursued by Monaco. Good result there. Auxerre slipping up slightly. Metz with a solid performance against Rennes. The best game of the night, Bordeaux against Lens. And Olympique Marseille still seeking an away win. Arihan, the final coach on the left-hand side there, really appreciated the value of having the experience of Ronald Koeman in the side as the great final captain prepared to take a free kick against Breda. Feyenoord in second place in the championship, and the ball turned in by Van Bronckhorst. The young Dutch international came on recently as part of that vanquishing of Wales in the PSV Stadium, and in the 53rd minute in this game, scoring the only goal of the match. Koeman, who might have driven for goal himself, putting a lot of curve in that ball, and Van Bronckhorst's run. Ajax faltering this season in the domestic championship, but a glorious goal there by Patrick Kluivert. Off for 9 weeks through injury, and now just slowly getting back into stride. And is this not a sign of the Patrick Kluivert we knew 2 seasons ago? 1-0 after 13 minutes. And Fortuna coming back here. Jeffrey going to the outside, touching it into Buck. And that was 1-1 right on the halftime whistle. The Ajax defense quite perplexed about that. But they have been showing signs of vulnerability in that area. And then, surprise, surprise, Fortuna go in the lead. Rickson picking it up here as he comes from the outside and then touching it in. 2-1 after 67 minutes. They could hardly believe it. Delightfully flicked on by Rickson. But Ajax never give up. The ball played high, and there's an appeal for a penalty for handling in the area, which the referee gives. Very tolerant referee to be pushed to the back like that without retaliation. Up went the hand, as sometimes happens when players go for the ball. And with abuse obviously being hurled at him, he stands his ground. And the penalty to be taken by a man who's not really settled in at Ajax, Marcia Santos. He scored that goal and then was immediately dropped for the next game. Van Gaal thinks he doesn't work within the Ajax system properly. 2-2 the final score. PSV out on their own, of course, and playing in their home stadium, where they were knocked out of the UEFA Cup recently. Another corner by Sparta. Turned in then a surprise lead by Sparta. Van der Hoven scoring the opening goal after 10 minutes. Dick Advocat not at all happy, telling his assistant coach exactly what he's going to say to his defenders when they come in at half-time. Suddenly a gap appears, and watch it filled by Van der Hoven. Now a corner for PSV. Wim Jonk, who was quite outstanding for Holland recently against Wales, and Jaap Stam, his colleague in that international side, coming up to drive it in. 1-1, 1 minute from half-time. There were defenders converging, but the jump was to perfection. The scorer, Jaap Stam. And then inevitably, PSV taking very firm control of this game. The free kick touched in Ilish. The drive through there and slipped into the net by Marcelo. The Brazilian brought to Holland to replace Ronaldo. 2-1 for PSV. 65 minutes gone. They had just edged out in front, and they stayed there to the end.